Welcome to Bradford and Brooks with your host, Margie Bradford and Jim Brooks, live on WBRT here in downtown Bardstown. The show is sponsored by Springview Hospital in Lebanon. Thank you for listening to 97.1 FM, 1320 AM, and 94.9 FM in Lebanon. Bradford and Brooks, a civil discourse of discussion where community involvement is encouraged. Bradford and Brooks is on.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Bradford and Brooks here on WBRT. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you from now until the top of the hour. And then stay tuned to WBRT for the best in local news and information. Well, we have a beautiful, if not chilly, Wednesday morning outside. Margie, I see the sun shining brightly over our old Kentucky home.
Oh, you could almost make a song about that, couldn't you?
Well, I would. I could write the lyrics, but you wouldn't want to hear me sing it.
Noriah, we can hum it together, what do you say?
Well, we'll play it on the radio.
Better yet.
Well, Margie, we're returning to familiar ground today with our show topic.
Yes.
We are, well, I guess actually we started some time back, our initial foray into political conversation, but we're back.
We dipped our toe, and now we're starting to wade in.
That's right. That's right. And just a reminder, if you or a family member are a candidate that'll be on in the May primary or coming up seeking an elective office, you have an opportunity to be a guest here on Bradford and Brooks. You can contact the radio station or myself on Facebook or Margie Bradford, and we'll be happy to schedule, get you on our calendar.
Right.
All right. Well, Margie, our special guest today is Mr. Eric Shelburne. Eric is a 5th District Magistrate on Nelson Fiscal Court, wrapping up his first 4-year term as magistrate. And Eric, thank you so much for coming in today. You're the first I was going to say you're the first candidate for Judge Executive, but actually not. You're the first Democrat for Judge Executive that we've had today or on the show so far. So welcome, Eric.
Right. Well, thank you, and I just appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come on and talk a little bit about about myself and the platform, and for those folks that may not know me, I appreciate the introduction. I am serving right now as the 5th District Magistrate, and I'll be wrapping up my 4th year next year. I could go on and on about that.
Oh, well.
Well, Eric, tell our listeners a little bit about Eric Shelburne, and the Shelburne name isn't uncommon in the Bardstown area, and invariably, I'm sure you're going to hear on the campaign trail people say, "Well, are you related to so and so Shelburne?" So give us a little bit of background. Maybe that'll save you from having to answer that question all the time.
Well, me and JD, we do share relations now, but the fact of the matter is, my grandfather Fred came from Spencer County years ago and settled over here and ran a dairy farm and had 12 kids. And but we are we're distantly related. I've never personally met JD. I'm looking forward to that opportunity. I have listened to his music. I think he's a great entertainer. I keep track of him on Facebook. But as for myself, I just want to talk a little bit about when coming to the decision to run for Judge Executive was not an easy decision for me. It took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of thought. It took talking to many friends and counsel, but now that I've finally feel like this is what I need to be doing, I'm totally committed with it, and I'm excited about the moment. As for myself, I'm a Nelson County resident. I've always lived here. The only time that I haven't lived here is when I was serving in the military. I was back in back in 1990, I was deployed to Desert Storm, served some time at Fort Riley, and then got sent to Germany for a couple of years. And at the end of my term of service, I knew that I was wanted to come back home to Nelson County and start my family and my life here. It's just it's home to me. It's always been home to me. The only time I've spent away from here, I've built my life and my career here. I didn't stay away and then come back to retire here. I'm here. I'm committed to Nelson County.
Now, you formerly were a lineman for the city of Bardstown, and so you're familiar. You haven't just lived here. You've worked in the community.
Yes, that's correct, and I'm proud of that service. I did have the opportunity just after I got back from the Army. I had it was a blessing to get hired on at the city of Bardstown as a groundman. I started my electric lineman career there. I served there for over 22 years and was fortunate enough to make it through to retirement. It's a hazardous job at best, but it did give me the opportunity to really cut my teeth on serving. When you look at all the folks that are working for local government, they are public servants.
Sure.
I mean, when
are.
you look at the police, the fire, from sanitation to street workers, they're all working for you, the public. And it gave me that appreciation for that, to establish relationships and to really provide my gift of service through that. I was in a lot of backyards on some snowy nights, and I got to meet a lot of good people. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, but I think that adds to my want to continue to serve.
Well, I think it also adds to your experience. I mean, this isn't you've had experience with the public and with public service, so that I would think that would be a plus.
Yes, I appreciate you saying that. And it's true. I've built onto that. When I started to run for magistrate, that was what it was going to be for me. Was an extension of my public service, an opportunity for me to help the folks that I lived around, to really just to do what I could to give them the best opportunity. So, but
Well, Eric, since the county's it's in pretty good financial condition now, but Judge Watts has often warned that the next future judge executive and a future fiscal court will have to make decisions at some point regarding new revenue and other challenges. What do you think are the three biggest challenges that the next fiscal court and judge executive will end up addressing?
Well, three of them. We can top the list off. There's going to be several challenges, and I'm very wide-eyed about it. And one of those is, if you look at the way fiscal court is now, we have a pretty experienced fiscal court. So we know for sure that we'll have two new magistrates in the next election term. We're going to have a new judge executive in the next election term, and we have two magistrates that have challenges for their seat. So a potential of 4 different magistrates and a new judge executive. And that's one of the reasons that pushed me to decide to run for judge executive, because I felt like I could bring that experience to the table where I've served over all these years, and also to where I've been able to get really involved with county government and serve in the county government capacity. During that amount of time, I've had the opportunity to accrue over, I think it lasts 144 hours of county official training through the Department of Local Government. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to have to retain workers. It's a challenge now to find qualified and quality workers at this time. And on that note, let me just give a real big shout out to those folks that are working that I've had the opportunity to work with at the county. We have some really good county workers and the department heads, and I mean, we're blessed to have such hard, dedicated workers, and I appreciate every one of them, and I appreciate the sheriff's department, and ambulances. It's just, it's amazing, really.
All right. All right. But back to the question: what are the three challenges? And I limited it to three because I knew that you could probably create quite a list of things that possible challenges.
Right.
Can you give me your top three? And of course, any top three you give, as things change, things can be so fluid.
Sure.
And those top three could be the bottom, wind up.
They're all pretty significant. Okay. For instance, I mean, you can see that the sheriff's budget has inflated over the past 3 years. It went up to, I think, over $239,000. The EMS budget as well has inflated tremendously, and the jail. These are all services that we have to provide, and so the challenge is going to be to maintain the level of service that we have without impacting taxpayers by raising taxes.
Right.
And I think that there's ways that we can accomplish that. There's a lot of opportunities that we could get with the. Hopefully at the state level, we talked a little bit about maybe applying for some grants. That way, maybe we could for some of the folks in Bardstown that want different opportunities. You hear folks talk about water parks and such. That would be so hard for the county budget to stretch to do something like that. But I think that if you can make the contacts and develop relationships, I think that can help ease that burden. Another big topic of conversation that I hear a lot about from the comprehensive. I've been very involved with the comprehensive plan. We have a challenge that we're completely out of room in the industrial park.
Exactly.
So we have to meet that challenge so that we can provide the jobs that Nelson County needs, and attached to that is the lack of residential growth. I mean, not the growth, but the potential residential growth that's allowed on the comprehensive plan. And all of those are the main obstacles to those are infrastructure.
Exactly.
And so you're talking about roads, you're talking about sewer is the main thing, and water.
Right.
And
natural gas.
And natural gas is huge for industrial development. Sure. They all want it. I mean, and it's expensive to put in. So how we go about getting that money, is going to be a challenge. But it's something that we have to provide.
Right. Well, you're reading questions off my list. I mean, I was asking all about this, but I'm just curious. I remember years ago when the county bought the property out there for an industrial park, there was a lot of discussion on, does the county government have a role in doing that, and should taxpayer money be invested to do all this? Of course, it looked like an expansive 100-plus acre tract that nobody would ever buy anything in.
Right.
But of course, we see it now, and there's nothing left.
Right.
And with potential on the horizon of additional development moving here, thanks to the news out of Hardin County.
Yes.
But what's your thoughts on government role in economic development? There are some projects that industrial park would not have happened if the county hadn't led the way with that. Invested that money, and there was a lot of discussion. Is it the right thing to do or not? And I think, in hindsight, it's easy to say, yeah, it was a good idea.
Yes.
And we could use more of that.
Right. Right.
Any thoughts on what the role of government is from your perspective?
Oh, absolutely. And if you think about it, and I've actually talked. I mean, Bernard Ice was part of that movement. And Dean was there, and I'm not sure if Keith may have even been there. He's been there for a while, but it was that was a risk. It was a huge risk, and I think there was a little bit of nervousness about it. But like you said, the fruit of that you can see has paid off great for Nelson County. So going on that litmus test, I think that it's pertinent that we have the responsibility to provide jobs, and if we can do it without impacting the taxpayer so much, then I think that's what as definitely a role and hopefully going forward. I would like to see that, as far as looking for the next industrial development, that maybe we could partner up with the city of Bardstown on that, because it benefits the folks in Bardstown. They're all county residents as well. To maybe absorb some of the costs of that and help that. But they have their industrial park. We have ours. They're running out of room in their industrial park, and it is a top priority for fiscal court. So go together, But yeah, it's significant.
Well, that's worth exploring.
And we have to have places for people to live, right? We all got jobs here, but we're running out of residential development. It was brought up in fiscal court that we're running out of rentals. Those are things we're going to have to address.
Yeah, I really, as part of the local planning committee, Jan Johnston gave a review of potential residential development areas. And as you just said, there's several areas of the county that could be ripe for development, but they lack the infrastructure.
Exactly.
And right now, if you buy 50 or 75 acres and you want to do a development outside in the county, you can only build large tracts, homes on large tracts, because you unless you fund building a sewer infrastructure from where it ends to where you need it, and that's no small task.
It's no small task, and it's not going to be it's going to be a very expensive task.
Right.
But that being said, we're very fortunate, despite the bad things that COVID has brought, and it's been horrible. We were blessed to get the ARPA funds, which was the American Rescue Act funds, and I feel I'm so proud of being a part of. We're tying into Louisville Water with part of that funding, and that's always been a concern of mine. Even before I even got into local government, it was a concern to me, because I used to live out on Boston Road, and I'd drive to Bardstown, back behind the lake, and there was times you could look across that lake and it was dry. And we'd get the water advisories, and at one point I'm thinking, oh, Lord, I hope we don't run out of water. So that is we're gonna be able to produce double the amount of water for customers here, and so part of that money and part of the vision for the next fiscal court needs to be able to look at the best way we can apply those funds to serve Nelson Countyans in the most efficient and cost-effective way. We have to be good stewards of that, because that's a one-time deal, and once that's gone, we're back to our $25 million budget. So. You may have, this has been all the talk, or what has been periodically over the years, of a multi-purpose indoor sports complex, i.e. indoor facility with an indoor pool. What are your thoughts on that? And I know that County Judge Executive Dean Watts has gone on record with me several times saying he's not against building it. It's the ongoing funding of its operation that can be the trick. What are your thoughts on making this happen and keeping it affordable? As much industry as we have here in Nelson County, my wife has asked me, why can't local government and industry partner to come up with a way? Because you're reading my paper now.
Well, an indoor facility like that would improve the quality of life for everybody.
Absolutely, and those are opportunities. As I look at the vision of what we, this is a defining moment for Nelson County. We're going to be defining who we are as Nelson County, and those kind of things. When I look at Nelson County in the future, I want those opportunities. But the bottom line is, and Dean is he's one of the He's really good with money, and we all know that. And part of that is paying for it, right? So I mean, how do we do that without impacting taxpayers, right? So like you said, there's private partnerships that could we have to really get into the weeds of what projects are going to cost, what the takeoff's going to be, long-term effect of that. Is there grant money to be applied for? And honestly, now, if you open up a facility like this, it's going to make some kind of revenue, right? So, I mean, it's kind of like, the pet adoptions. It offsets part of the cost of what it takes to run the Humane Society or, the shelter. So that's my thoughts on it. We need to, instead of just talking about it, we really need to do some serious studies on it, and maybe that's something else that we could partner with Bardstown on. We just have to kick every bush that we can to provide those kind of services for Nelson County in the future. And when I think about the future of Nelson County and the definition of who we are as Nelson County, I think everybody wants that small town charm, but they want the opportunities. They want to be able to. They want to have amenities. A VA clinic would be great. I have to take my uncle all the way to Louisville. It's things like that. Things like that we could go after.
Right.
Well, does the county have a grant writer or somebody who's dedicated to seeking out those opportunities and applying for them? I mean, if they don't, I would think that might be an avenue that you need to think about. Sure,
and I have thought about it. Right now, we if there's grants to be written, we go through CAECO, and they have great grant writers at KMCA. And, going to these this public official training, it opens the doors that you get to learn about the grants, okay? You get to learn about what you qualify for. And they're changing all the time. So, you really have to stay in front of all of that. But I don't think we particularly have one here employed at the county, but we have access to one. It's just pushing it and going through with it, really.
Well, and being just cognizant of the fact that those things are out there, and you have to go look for them.
You got to go kick the bushes. So it's all about the granting. To me, it's all about giving Nelson County residents the best services, the best opportunities, and keeping taxes at a low rate. And trying not to impact that,
Well, you have been sitting around the table with Dean Watts for the last 20 years.
I can tell you some stories on how thrifty this guy is. He is one of the most thrifty guys I know.
Well, let's see. Eric, you were chairman of the local planning committee for Nelson County Schools. Any lessons learned from that? Because I told Wes Bradley that being chairman seemed to be like herding cats sometime, because you had 20 people and 20 different opinions on everything. Any lessons you took away from that experience?
I would say the biggest thing about that was the biggest lesson about that is sometimes it's hard to, you need to really keep an open mind the best that you can, and sometimes it's hard to stand on your convictions when they may not be popular with everybody else. And so if you think if you think about a situation and it doesn't even have to deal with that, then it's one of those things that if you're a principled person, looking in the face of much animosity, sometimes you got to stand in there and do what you think is right.
Okay. Of course, we've been talked about the issues facing the county. Are there? Have you had some thoughts about something entirely new initiatives or some things you would like to see you in fiscal court address some needs that maybe aren't met, or bringing your experience to bear here. What new is there something new out there you think that might be worth considering?
Well, first and foremost, the things we've already talked about would be top of the agenda. Right. But a big part of that, I think, would be to try to get us a bypass in Nelson County,
Right.
and that is going to open up so many other doors. You can just see the way that it is, and I know that we have a future road planned. It's not exactly where I think would be the best placement for it, but that's the beginning of that,
Right.
and being able to tie these communities together. And Nelson County's got a lot to offer. We're not just one. We're not just Bardstown. We're not just Bloomfield. We're not just New Haven. We share a common thread, and there's just a whole litany of really cool experiences that can draw people here to Nelson County. And part of that is road infrastructure. We didn't talk about that part of it. And I think a bypass has been needed for quite some time. If you look at the other communities, you see that, you see those things and how much that has benefited those communities and taken some of that traffic out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Those huge trucks coming through downtown and around. I cringe every time I'm coming down here in a roundabout around the courthouse. I think one of those trucks is going to run over me.
Well,
they're so big.
Yeah.
Well, one day this past summer, I'm going through downtown, and Jonesy from Around the Town Carriage has a crew with him. He's got a semi rock truck in front of him and one behind him, and I'm thinking, what kind of tour are these people getting? Bardstown is is an industrial park, or Bardstown is the most beautiful small town in America, except when the North 3rd Street's clogged with semi-traffic.
Right. Well, you can see we've got our rock and our blacktop manufacturings in the western quarter of Nelson County right now, and there's just one way through here.
Right.
And there's not much we can do about it, especially when the demand is not just Nelson County. You're sending them over Spencer County and other places. It's just it's something that needs to be addressed. It should past due on that portion of it.
I think you've seen this too, I'm sure, that when it comes to roads and the state is reactive. They're not going to build something before it's needed. That's pretty much the way that works.
Before it's badly needed. That's what you meant to say.
Right. And Erica, speaking about roads and paving, I know you and the other magistrates there's a lot of discussion, good-natured discussion about the division of the money that magistrates have for paving in their districts. And I don't know that amount has changed much over the years, but the cost of asphalt per ton has increased. And so just about every year, how much paving, how far that asphalt goes, tends to shrink.
It certainly does.
And so you're forced into making decisions based on priorities.
Right.
And of course, you're going to be, if you're potentially the next judge executive, you might have an opportunity to change how all that works. Have you had any thoughts about, do you think it's fair to all the magistrates? What's any thoughts on what if any changes you would consider?
And I'm glad you brought this up. Before I came up to do this interview today, I was just doing a little research about, the roads that I've been fortunate enough to be able to pave since I've been in office. And you're right, us and the magistrates, we jostle about, and it's fun, but there's a seriousness behind it because we're only allotted $120,000 per year as your blacktop funds per magistrate. Well, the rule of thumb is about $50,000 per mile. I got 80-something miles in my district. Now, of course, not all those roads need to be paved at the same time, but when you're running triage on them and they getting a little bit neglected, $120,000 don't cover very much.
Yeah.
So it is a challenge. Now, we've been fortunate that we can apply for discretionary funds and funds at the state. Now, for instance, I just got some funds from the state government to put on Plum Run Road. That was money I didn't have in my budget. And of course, every time I get to speak with Jimmy Higdon, I'm always and you've probably heard me in fiscal court every time the state comes in there, about putting a little blacktop on 62, and I'm just going to tell you, he just gave me an update that bid was released in November and it should be completed by June. So I did a happy dance on that. So, but as far as changing anything, Dean's been, he's been real fair. I think he tries to spread those state funds around. He tries to spread them around as equal as he can. I was a big proponent of treating the whole county as a triage. Like, take all those funds, let's get a rating system for each road, kind of like the state does, and how they pick their roads to pave.
Right.
So, I thought that made a lot of sense, but there's some challenges involved there, according to some of the research. And I think we need to dig into this a little bit more, but according to what we found out, it's very expensive to get a group come in and rate your road system. But I think it's something that's, and also, I think that number, it hasn't been increased as far as what the magistrates get.
Right.
It probably needs to go up. Just like everything else.
Now, doesn't the judge executive kind of hold back a little money to help out with one of the magistrates' paving budget?
He does. Yeah,
Okay.
He's got his own discretionary funds as well. Yep, he sure does.
Because I know that the magistrates over the years, if they're short or need a little extra boost to get a section done that they need done, So, that helps out.
That does. Now, keep in mind, you have to have a fair judge executive, so we may have to look at that policy going forward. I mean, but, when you're representing Nelson County as a judge executive, it's past being it's past being a district manager. Right. At this point, we're doing what's best for Nelson County.
Right.
And that's
what you should be doing.
That's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, let me go back to, let's just talk about my relationship with the other magistrates. And Keith is like a big brother to me. We tussle over blacktop and we crack jokes on each other. But I'm going to tell you, when it comes down to it, his vision of Nelson County and the magistrates that I've seen that are serving right now, they have the vision of what's best for Nelson County as well. And maybe we don't always agree on something, but at the end of the day, we can shake hands about it, and we can say, hey, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and I'm looking forward to being able to take a role, a different, a more expansive role in that.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, we need to take a commercial break. You're listening to Bradford and Brooks, and our very special studio guest, Eric Shelburne, who is a Democratic candidate for Nelson County Judge Executive in next year. So we'll take a break. We'll be right back with more with Eric after these messages. Stay tuned. All right, you're back with Bradford and Brooks here on WBRT, 1320 AM, 97.1 FM, and streaming live from the website WBRTcountry.com. All right, our special studio guest is still with us, Mr. Eric Shelburne, and Eric is 5th District Magistrate on Nelson Fiscal Court, and he's also a Democrat seeking the party's nomination for Nelson County Judge Executive, which now I always considered it the top elected office in the county to me, because it covers so much, and one thing I've always that always impressed me with Judge Watts was, in that position, you get asked so many questions about so many different things, and I think he probably spends a good bit of his day every day answering phones, and people want to know, where can I find XYZ, and he knows either the agency, the state agency, the local agency, or a civic organization to help them. So he does a lot of directing traffic, because the state or the county doesn't always have resources to help solve someone's problem. But and it leads me into my next question. Of course, Dean's a Democrat, and there's one Republican on Nelson Fiscal Court, Jeff Lear.
Yes.
What about partisanship? I know that we have right now 2 candidates for judge executive on the Republican side, and right now, just you. The filing deadline is Friday, January 7th. So we'll know exactly who all the players will be then.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that in local elections? I don't know. Does party really mean as much as the individual? In your view. In
my view, really, parties. It doesn't. To me, it doesn't qualify so much at the local level. You're not really so much voting on legislation. You're kind of managing county services. And it's funny you bring up Jeff. Me and Jeff have developed a pretty good, I'm going to say friendship. I don't know if he's going to agree with that or not, but I'm going to say friendship. When I first got on the court, anybody that knows Jeff knows that he is a real stickler with numbers. He's great with numbers. And so, I get all this information thrown on me as a, freshman magistrate, and I'm looking at all these numbers, and there's kind of a little bit overwhelming. And he sits right beside me. And like you said, he's a Republican. And, he just kind of tucked me right up underneath his wing. If I had any questions, he could, he was great about answering. We share more probably common ground with each other than we do anything else. No, I think that really it goes beyond party at the local level because, it's about doing what's best for Nelson County.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. If you're the best person to represent Nelson County at the magistrate level, at the judge executive level, then, politics throw them out the window at that point. Now, we do kind of kid around a little bit, but when it comes down to county business, I think we're all unified in the goal of doing what's best for Nelson County. It's and look at it this way. The whole voting for party at the local level also gets the whole shot in it when people change parties a week before they file the deadline. So where did we voting for, the party or the person? Right. And I feel like I'm the best person to represent the county going into the future. Well,
Eric, I lost my train of thought there. One of the things that Judge Watts put together, and this is going back 20 years, maybe plus, was there used to be the Nelson County Police and the Sheriff's Office. And through an initiative that he supported was bringing them together. And so instead of having a separate county police and sheriff's office, the fiscal court had an agreement to fund X number of positions in the sheriff's office. That would be the road patrol, the law enforcement. And that contract has survived all the changes in sheriffs, And looking back, now I will tell you there was controversy at the beginning of this. And is it a good idea to put, of course, the sheriff is a constitutional officer himself, and and part of his budget really is controlled by fiscal court. And I know that the sheriff has sometimes asked, I need more money. Is it possible? But do you think is that a relationship you believe is working and will continue moving forward? Because as judge executive, you could change that if you really felt the need to.
Well, I mean, you say that, but really that kind of decision would have to come from the magistrates, I would think,
that's right?
But what you say is true. The sheriff's department and fiscal court are married. You just look at it like a marriage. We're in this marriage together. We're providing police protection for Nelson County, and it has served us well in the past. But you don't have to be under a rock to realize that the sheriff's budget has went up significantly over the past 3 years. So that's when people get a little antsy and hot in the seat a little bit, but like, well, come on now, we've got other needs at the county level and this and that. I think that doing what. And I've heard that discussion tossed around before, but at the end of the day, that too is a decision that has to be what's best for Nelson County. Right now, it's good. It's a good decision to keep it the way it is. Let's be honest about it. None of us on fiscal court are police officers, so Raymond can't come out on a job and tell me how to tie in a 3-phase line. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to tell him how to police. Now, but what we need to do is work together. As a marriage, we're going to work together to try to keep the services up, keep our officers happy, maintain those good officers that we have that put their life on the line every day, and try our best to be good stewards of taxpayers' dollars. And I think we can accomplish that working together.
Right. Yeah, I think the sheriff's, he's trying to retain good officers, and that's always a competitive market. You know, other agencies will be paying more.
Right.
So he's trying to stay competitive while also staying within a budget.
Absolutely, and the sheriff's department now, we're very competitive with our neighboring counties. Our officers are paid more than most of our neighboring counties, and counties they have actually a formula that KMCA puts out, okay, and it is it takes every position in the county. It shows you it takes every county, puts them together, and they have a low, a median, and a high pay range for each position, from county judge all the way to sanitation.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They never heard that.
Yeah, well, and so they have this average, and you can look at that average, and you can tell how competitive you are with other counties to your size. Specifically, you can look at the data of what a county of 46,000 people, what they pay. I lean a little bit on that. I'm not saying that we don't need to be more competitive by adding some funding, not just at the sheriff's department, but probably bring everybody up just, where we can.
But it gives you an idea what the baseline is.
It gives you the idea of the baseline, and right now our officers are making high to medium in that range, But it's kind of like any service job like that. You really can't pay them enough.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so, but the thing is, you have to be good stewards of taxpayers' money. You have to pay what it pays,
Right.
So, I mean, that's part of the challenge there. But it's not just the sheriff's department where that challenge is shared. It's in every department that we have. We want to keep our personnel. I mean, we want to have good quality personnel.
And this has come up in past elections, but I don't think I've ever heard you really be an advocate of doing this. EMS, of course, the county subsidizes the EMS operation every year and has since it acquired it. I know in past elections there was some discussion about investigating privatizing EMS or selling the service to a commercial firm or something. And any thoughts about that? Is that something that you would want the court to consider at some point in the future?
And I'm gonna take this back to. That's a decision that doesn't need to be made by a singular person.
Right.
This is something we're going to really have to brainstorm about because, as we've talked, the EMS budget has, increased significantly.
Right.
But, what a great job they do. I mean,
yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, Joe Pruitt has got to be one of the best managers of that I could even imagine. I've never seen a person work so hard to keep costs low when an ambulance breaks down. So we know that they're working, and look, can't pay those guys enough either. I mean, they do a job that I personally couldn't. Them and the police, I could not do their job, and I take my hat off to them. Addressing the increasing budget is going to have to be, and I've had one of the magistrates talk to me about this too, and maybe some future working sessions. And it needs to be thought of in a broad view. There's been some. There's been some talk of maybe tying them with the fire department. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. It's something that needs to be addressed, and and I think it's going to take more than one person saying we're going to privatize. I'm not sure that's the route we need to go.
Right.
It's going to take some research, and it's going to take getting into the weeds of that as well.
Right. Well, I know over the years, there's the EMS is. I think one of the concerns years ago when the county took over EMS was the concerns that a private entity from outside would not provide the level of service.
That's the
Right.
thing.
that EMS
That's the
provides.
thing.
And so
Yeah.
by keeping it in-house, keeping
Yes.
it, the county has protected providing ambulance service,
Correct.
quality service to our outlying communities.
Absolutely. I mean, how grateful, what a wonderful thing to have an ambulance station in Bloomfield and one in New Haven.
Right.
Yeah.
It saves lives.
Yes,
Sure
it does.
does.
It saves lives. So that's just not something you can really, you can't, you have to fund that. I mean,
Right.
you have to fund that.
Yeah, and remember, if you privatize it, those people are in it to make money.
That's exactly right.
I mean,
Right.
otherwise, why would they
That's
do
exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
it's necessarily would cost it would necessarily cost people who are using it more money.
Yes, and part of what has caused the bleed here is they cut back on the Medicare, right?
Right.
So we lost some of that funding. So when they cut Medicare, well, the county government has to pick it up. I
Right.
mean, we have to fund that service. So, we're not getting paid. And so, and the thing is, you can raise rates, but you just have to be competitive on your rates.
Right.
And also, you got to be able to give it with what people can afford. And a lot of people just can't afford to pay it, right? It's just part of
Right.
having
Public service.
it's public service.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, we're just about down to the wire. You got about 30 seconds to leave our listeners with your closing thought.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know. I think that, of all the things and accomplishments that I've been able to discuss with you all today, I think what I feel like is my biggest accomplishment is the relationships that I've established. Not just my 20 plus years as a public servant at the city of Bardstown, but also as my term as magistrate. I feel like that you need to be able, that person, to be able to communicate, establish, and maintain relationships. I just appreciate everybody that's supporting me in this. I thank my family. I thank God for bringing me to this place, and I just want to say thank you all for having me. I want to wish everyone out listening Merry Christmas.
Hometown Radio. You found it. 1320
also want
AM,
to,
97.1 FM.